The point of life is not to make yourself happy. If you think that's the point of life, you're setting yourself up for a very challenging existence. The point of life is to feel the moment that you're in.
Welcome to Divot, the community for people making their mark on the world, where each week I sit down with the greatest minds in business, tech, sports, and entertainment to uncover the moments, decisions, and lessons that shape their journey so you can shape yours. Go to divot.org to learn more, or subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcast, or Spotify.
Divot.
Today, we're in Malibu, California, with my older brother, Brandt Andersen, an award-winning filmmaker, activist, and former tech entrepreneur whose work bridges storytelling and real-world impact. Before entering film, he bootstrapped a technology company that scaled from startup to tens of millions in revenue, and later owned an NBA G League team called the Utah Flash. Today, Brandt is known for producing more than 30 films, including critically acclaimed works like Everest, American Made, and Lone Survivor. He's also worked with some of the top people in Hollywood. As a director, Brandt's passion is for human-centered stories, leading him to create Refugee, which premiered at the Cannes Film Festival and was shortlisted for the Academy Awards. His latest film, IWasAStranger, which he wrote and directed, releases in theaters January 9th. Brandt's work has taken him to refugee camps across the Middle East, to Haiti during the 2010 earthquake, and regions impacted by conflict. He grounds his films in living experiences, and he's one of the most interesting people I've ever met. I hope you enjoy him.
I was trying to think about one of the most memorable stories I've had with you, and my mind immediately went back to skydiving on the North Shore. Do you remember that?
Yeah, that's hard to forget.
So I had skydived at this place before, and it was awesome. I had a great time. It's right in, I think it's in Hollywood.
It is, yeah.
And
Yeah.
we went, and even the people that we were with, one of the guys, I think that was with you, was the guy that like my friend had jumped with. Like it was all the same people. It's all the crazy skydiving people. And we get in the plane. I think it's either just us or maybe there's one or two other people. There weren't a lot of people in the plane, as I recall.
Something that day didn't feel quite right. And yeah, we're up in the plane.
What, just like you didn't feel?
I'd never been afraid to jump before, but I just didn't feel like the guy I was with felt very, like I had gone a few times before in Utah, and it all felt very organized, and that one felt rushed. And the guy I was with was a Vietnam vet, and he felt like life didn't have enough meaning to him, is the way I would probably characterize it. And certainly my life didn't mean much to him. So we're up in that plane, and as I remember my previous jumps, I had been checked at least 10 times by other people. And in that particular day, if I got checked twice, it was one more time than I remember, because I only remember getting checked once. So when you're jumping tandem, you're getting shimmied out forward. And I'm thinking like, I should shut this down. But I'm also like, not really someone who, I just don't, I'm like, no, I'm just like, put that away. I'm just
Like your gut had told you well before that you should not get in this plane with this guy.
Before I even got in the plane.
And now at this point, it's like, it's too late.
Before I got in the plane, I was like, this is not the guy I should jump with. And like it seemed to me like he wanted to cross over. So we're shimmying forward. He's very cavalier about it in a way that was not like confident. It was more like, I'm ready. And I'm like, I wasn't. Because it was my 30th birthday. And remember my kids were back at the
Yeah.
condo. And so, yeah, I go, actually, but you're wrong. You went first. You went out of the plane first.
Maybe right. Yeah.
And so you go out of the plane first and you're like, give me the thumbs up, all excited. And I'm like, so you go out and then we go out and, we're falling and we're falling and we immediately fall through this cloud cover. And so I can't see anything. And it just, none of it felt right. So like we're in Hawaii, we're falling through clouds. And like when we finally come through the clouds, he pulls the chute. And because I had gone a few times, I knew the feeling. You're supposed to feel this jerking feeling, and all of a sudden, like you're like, you're floating softly.
Yeah, it's like the biggest wedgie you've ever had, and then it levels out.
Well, that didn't happen. He pulls the chute, and now it's like, first of all, he waited till we went through the clouds, which meant we were closer to the ground than we should have been. And now we're falling feet first, but we're falling at a very rapid pace. Like it was like jumping out of the plane, but like you're falling as fast as you can. And I look up and I see that the chute is like this jumbled mess. And he's
panicking.
Yeah, his hands are everywhere, like a spider. And I'm like, and he's yelling something, but I can't hear him because the velocity is so high. And I'm like, what do I do? What can I help? What can I do? And he's like, shut up, Bravo 1. And I'm like, this guy's in a full-on freak out. He's gone back to Nam, and I am dead. Dead. Shut up, Bravo 1. He just kept yelling, shut up, Bravo 1. And I'm like, oh gosh, he's not coming out of this. So I don't know what happened. I really think we're going to die, but nothing I can do. I don't know what to do. So before I know it, he goes to his leg and he pulls out a knife. And I'm thinking he's about to slit my throat or he's cutting me loose. And I'm on my own, but I don't have a chute. But what he does is he cuts the chute loose because he had tried to pull it loose and it wouldn't release. So he cut the chute loose. And now we're back to, we go just like this, and we go back to falling face first. And, but now as we're falling face first, we're like starting to get this ground rush because the ground is coming at us really fast. And, he pulled the reserve chute. It goes poof. And we're on the ground almost immediately. And, this guy comes running over to us and like, I turn back and I look at the guy and I'm like, what was that? And he just was like, he was still in Nam. Bless his heart.
He was still in Nam.
Yeah, he was in Nam.
Well, as we felt, you're right. I did jump first, and then I totally forgot. And then when my guy pulled the chute, he's kind of looking down, and I just remember him going, "Oh, thank goodness." And I'm like, "Thank goodness what?" And he's like, "Well, that other guy that jumped after us, like his chute didn't open. Now, thankfully, his chute just opened."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Wow, that is lucky for that guy." And then I was like, "Oh, that was you."
Yeah.
I totally forgot. I was like in my own world. And then when we hit the ground, it was, it's supposed to be this like great moment of accomplishment. You do this thing, and your guy, I do remember, he did look like he was in a bad place. He
Yeah.
was,
I
you know, and you were pretty upset. I think
I wanted, I
understandably,
mean, in
you were.
fairness, I wanted to beat him up. I was not feeling like he saved us. I wanted to beat him up. I, m- I think that was the wrong reaction. In hindsight, I should have probably given him a hug and held him. I probably should have taken him into my arms. But in the moment, my reaction was what it was. But I wasn't, he went to Nam and I went into the octagon. I wanted to beat him up, but I wasn't happy. Now, but I don't know how many years later, I went home after that and went to sleep for
Yeah.
like,
I remember the day was just, I mean, as you would imagine, we walked in, we didn't talk to anyone. It was like, don't speak of this. And I did too. I just went in and slept.
I went to sleep for like 24 hours. I went to sleep. I slept that afternoon and all the way through the night. But it was a couple of years later, but that place had an accident and like the plane went down and like 7 people or 8 people died at that place. Like, you didn't know that?
No,
Yeah, that place.
makes
Yeah,
the
anyway,
experience way less
yeah.
funny.
Oh, sorry. By the way, have you ever gone and jumped since?
Oh, no, no way.
I have.
Okay.
I was in England like a few years ago, and I was like surfing at one of those inline surf waves, and there was a place next door where you could jump. And I was like, I had this like thing that I never wanted to. I was like, I'm never going to jump again.
Yeah.
I got done doing that inline surf thing, and I was like, there were planes going up, and I was like, I don't want this fear anymore. I walked over there. I was kind of still like my hair was wet, and I was like, you guys have space for one to jump? I was alone, and they were like, yeah. I go, okay, I'll go up. I jump.
Felt different.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And it's a pretty good metaphor of life, actually, right? You're like, got to do the hard things with the right kind of people.
Very true. Agreed.
It doesn't really feel that great to be strapped to big, sweaty, weird guy in the North Shore and putting your life in his hands.
Yeah. I wouldn't do it at that place ever again, but I did do it again.
Where'd you get this Banksy painting?
I got it a few years ago at a show he did in London. He had a little show for some friends and family of friends and family, and yeah, bought it.
What is this your favorite piece of Banksy art, or do you have other favorite pieces? What do you like about this one?
I like this one. He painted the original of this behind a car wash on the West Bank in Palestine, and I've been to see it. And I really like this piece. It's interesting because so much of his art, when he does it, especially in like if he does a piece in London or he does a piece, there are pieces here. Actually, there is a piece here. There's a piece here in Malibu it was here forever. It's faded now. But there's so many of his pieces that he does in like what I would say, first world, they get defaced almost immediately. But this piece on the West Bank, it's behind this kind of like car wash, and it's never been defaced. And I love that. And so I like it because it's like here's this protester he's not throwing a Molotov cocktail, he's throwing flowers. And that image really resonates with me. And when I went and saw it, I loved it. I went and I've stayed at his hotel there, which is not open anymore, but stayed there a few times, taken people there before. And also I showed my short film on the wall there. And that was a real highlight for me. So this is a piece that really speaks to me and resonates with me. And so I like having it hung there over the fireplace. I like seeing it every day. It's something that it has meaning to me.
What got you into art?
I love art. It just is calming to me. In my life, I feel like I'm kind of like either this saint or this sinner, I think. Like I want to always do good, but sometimes like I feel like I have to set the balance of things straight, and that maybe requires some toughness, and I don't like that part of me. But somewhere in between that, like art allows things to be more balanced. I think that's why art means so much to me. I think that's why I see myself as an artist.
How do you decide who to invest in or what to buy, what not to buy?
I buy art just because it moves me or because I like having it around. I like having art that doesn't, that will someday, I guess, be more valuable than it is, but I don't ever sell anything. So I don't really think of it that way. I haven't sold any art.
Why not?
I feel like it's enriching to my life and to the lives of the people that live in the spaces that populate the art that I buy. So, every piece of art in here has some story. Some of it are interesting. Some of them, are just meaningful to me. I have a piece of art upstairs from an artist that like he held a knife to my throat one night, and to say sorry, he brought it out to my house the next day. And like that's maybe not the most peaceful piece of art, but it is an interesting story. And this one has an interesting story, and that there's a piece over there that during when the Malibu fires came through here, like two cops showed up at our door, and then they wanted to take pictures with it with their guns out, and like there's just everything has some meaning, some intrigue, and that makes it live on and have some vibrant history for me and for the people that I love. So I love the art that's here, and whether it's here or somewhere else, I just don't buy art to sell it. So we keep it and it lives on.
What first got you into filmmaking?
When I started it in university at BYU, that I would go to film school. I was working at the motion picture studio in Provo, and I thought I would go be a film director. And that's how I started thinking I would go into film. And life took me a different direction.
What's unique about filmmaking versus other creative things?
I think for me, it's the medium that has always moved me the most artistically. As a kid, I felt like film was a way to transport me to different places that I couldn't safely go any other way. If I look back, like I can look back to films, and I remember the feeling I felt watching the films. I remember, like, I could tell you where I was. I could tell you every aspect of like walking in to see Pulp Fiction in high school. I didn't know what I was going in to see. I trusted my friend, but I remember sitting there and looking at my friends on both sides of me and going, "What is this? What are we watching? How was this made?" And at the end of it, literally sitting in my chair and being like, that's unbelievable. And then seeing it like 5 more times, like blown away by the dialogue, by the visuals. Like, how did they do that? I remember seeing Dances with Wolves and like how I felt seeing that movie. I remember seeing E.T. with our grandmother, and I remember the experience and how it changed me. And I remember the immediate effects that like put inside of me. And so I think that's what made me want to be a filmmaker. That's what has stayed with me through the years. And that's what makes me keep wanting to stay with it. I mean, I've done other things, but this is the thing that I've done the longest. It's the place that I feel the most at home. And on a movie set, I feel very at home. And it's the thing that I feel I want to keep doing. I mean, it's what makes me want to keep like waking up and working.
You've done dozens of films, but how did you start? Where did you break in, and how did you get going?
I was trying to find a way in, and after various like ventures. I was trying to find a way into the film business. And like you say, it does spit a lot of people out. I was playing golf with a friend who said, "Hey, I know some people that are making movies. I'll introduce you." Introduced me to a couple of producers who were like making sort of C and D level movies. I flew out to LA and met with them. Um, they were partnered with 50 Cent, the rapper, and they and 50 Cent were all like, they were making these lower level movies, but they were on a good trajectory. The trouble they were having was they weren't like great like business guys, and they needed somebody who could like help them figure out how to structure deals and like kind of like close the loop on some things. And so like I was like, I can figure this out. And so I came in as that part of it, as kind of like a fourth. And they had all the Hollywood knowledge. And then 50 opened the doors from like celebrity status. They opened the doors on like knowing all the agents and agencies. And then I was more reputable on kind of the side of had money and had connections with banking and could talk to like the business side of things. And so between us, we kind of started doing things together, and like it just kind of went like this. And we started with these kind of lower tier movies, which they were already making. And then we just started climbing quickly.
You're helping produce, you're sort of getting the business side. And then did you feel like that wasn't enough creatively, or it wasn't as fun, or what led you to then moving into like full blown managing the entire creative process?
It started with strictly like managing business side of things, like paperwork, dealing with bankers and lawyers and working deals, strictly that. All along, like I wanted to move more to the creative side, but I knew it was going to take time. Then moved more to like physical production, so I would get to know like more on the talent side, and then eventually like to the point of where I was writing whenever I could write, to the point of saying like, okay, I've seen directors directing. I know I can do this. I know the only way I can really do this is if I write a great script. I started writing scripts, and then, then it moved to like, I directed a short that got shortlisted for an Academy Award. I wrote this longer script that I had written this longer script that then eventually got made into this I Was a Stranger, which is now being released.
Yeah. Tell me about it. So I Was a Stranger. It's coming out in theaters in January. What is it about?
So the film follows the story of 5 different families who've been affected by the Syrian refugee crisis. A doctor and her daughter, who are, through a series of events, are forced to flee war-torn Syria. A soldier, and in a moment of choice, he has to make a decision whether he's going to stay or leave Syria. A poet and his family, and their decision to leave the country. A smuggler who's smuggling people once they leave the country, and then a Coast Guard captain who is saving people out on the water. The way that the story works is the protagonist in each of those stories becomes background in each of the stories. And so it looks at the story from one angle and then looks at each of the other stories from the backside of the story. So, it kind of like hopefully helps people see like you think you know the whole story, but you don't always see the whole story until you see other people's story. The idea is basically like, like I'm background in your story. You are, this world, you're the protagonist of this world for you, and I'm the background for you, and you're background for my story. That's truth for everybody. So, like trying to take a look at that in a different light.
You spent time in refugee camps across the Middle East. How has that experience, meeting those people, or other experiences? You spent a lot of time in the Middle East. How has that shaped the characters in this film?
Well, I love the Middle East. I mean, I feel like I feel very drawn to the Middle East. I think it's a fascinating place with beautiful people. Um, these are stories from the Middle East, and uh, I got very drawn into Syria because if people don't really understand the Arab Spring, it's kind of a fascinating thing that happened in a similar time to when like we in the U.S. started to have our own financial crisis. Um, they weren't exactly corresponding, but it was similar. The Arab Spring happened all across the Arab world, but it was more dramatic in certain countries than in others. And what happened was, like, depending on how an Arab leader handled it, is what dictated what took place in that country. So if you look at a country like Jordan, the king of Jordan handled things very well, and the country still had protests, still had issues, but the country continued to function and things went on. What happened in Syria, there were protests. Bashar al-Assad, the president of Syria, he turned against his own people and, got very violent and started bombing his own people. And all of a sudden, civil war became the new norm in his country. Started torturing and killing his own people. And the next thing you know, millions of people were fleeing for their lives just to try to survive. And the interesting thing that I found about Syrians is that these are very peaceful, good people. And much like the protester here with his flowers, like when Syrian regime soldiers would turn their weapons on Syrian protesters, they would put flowers in their guns, and yet they would get shot. And really, if you trace this back, this all started in Syria due to a few kids who scribbled writings on a wall against Assad. These were just kids. And this really, really rubbed Assad the wrong way. And so like I took this deep interest in this because I felt like here's this bully who probably could have like brought people in and solved this issue. And instead he created this massive civil war that led to the deaths of hundreds of thousands of people and the the displacement of millions of people. And I I just I wanted to do something about it. And I talked earlier about like this kind of saint and sinner feeling that I get. And I like there's this feeling in me that I want to go fight. And I try to avoid that at all costs because it's not it's not good for me to do that. So I try to channel that into art, and that's what I've tried to do here is create a piece of art that will hopefully show what was done and hopefully create a lasting testament to what the Syrian people went through.
One thing that's really interesting about the film is this sort of dual sides of characters where you see someone that you say, wow, that's not a good person. They're doing something, committing some act of violence against someone else or sort of hurting someone else through helping themselves. And then on the flip side, you see that same person who is taking care of their family, or, you see the sort of the human side of maybe some of the reasons why they're doing some of these horrible things or difficult things. How do you think about these different characters and how you showed both the tough parts of what these people went through, but also the humanity of who they were.
People are tricky. And I think it's important that we recognize that, oftentimes we try to present ourselves as in the best light possible, which
Sure.
which
Everybody does that.
I think it's a natural human behavior. But I think it's very dangerous because it's not real life. I don't want to show things that are phony, and I don't like phony things. So like my characters. So you're talking about the smuggler in this instance, and for part of what you're talking about, the smuggler he's doing detestable things. I met with a smuggler who was very much like this guy, West African smuggler living in Turkey. I met with him. We sat on the banks of the Aegean Sea at a pizza place having pizza. And I'm thinking like, I'd been to Turkey over 20 times. And I'm thinking when I finally got a meeting lined up with this guy, what am I going to say or what am I going to have in common with this guy? Because like I love the Syrian people. Yeah, I know this guy's making a ton of money. I know he sent a ton of people to their death. I just want to reach across the table and probably like tap into that kind of like center part of me and like hurt him. But that also doesn't solve anything because like someone will just replace him. It doesn't do anything. I need to understand him. And so we start talking. We're eating our pizza. And I find out like he's a single dad. He has a son about Brody's age. And I'm like, let's talk about that for a while. I find out this guy loves his son. Man, he loves him. And like, why is he doing it? He's doing it because he loves his son. And like as I'm sitting there with him, I see he's got a pistol in his like he's got a pistol in his pocket. And like rather than hiding it, I ask him about his pistol. And I'm like, why you bring a pistol to lunch? He's like, I don't know you. And I'm like, okay, I understand that. But we go through all these motions, but I realize like despite this guy's like all the coldness this guy has, he warms up every time we talk about his son. Every time. Loves his son. And I can tell he's a good dad. And his son's not well. And he's a single dad. Doesn't want to talk about what happened to his wife. I don't know what happened to her. Or And he's just trying to get by like the rest of us. Are his methods good? No. And is it forgivable? I'm not his judge. I certainly am not okay with the way that he's doing things. But he is the man that he is. I can't change him. And, he tells me that he hopes someday to go to America. That's weird. It's weird that that's his hope. He wanted to change his life. So all this goes back into the script. So when I'm writing this, I try to put my own emotions onto this character and my own insecurities as a dad of like, I work too. And like, there are times that like I'm away and I wish I was there. I'm like, what am I doing? I'm over in Turkey and like, I should be back home with my son. So I'm not doing the same things he's doing, but like I'm falling short sometimes too. And I need to be like, I need to be self-aware enough that I also am like not harmless. Now, maybe my sins aren't his sins, But does that mean I'm the judge? Also, I don't think that's okay. That's not who I am. I'm not the one making those calls. So I don't think that I'm qualified to judge the magnitude of sins. And I can only look at myself and say I can do better. And I hope he does too. But on that day, the one thing I know is the one thing we did have in common was we both loved our sons. And while I detest what he was doing, we found some common ground.
I think this is something that's deeply in you that I've seen, is that like you really don't judge people, and most everybody else does judge people. And so I think that's helped me a lot of just like, try to breathe, take a second and try to put yourself in this person's shoes. It doesn't matter who it is. Could be someone living on the street. It could be someone who's said something horrible to you, or, raged at you on the freeway or something. But just, realize that they're going through something. There's something, and maybe part of why they're like this is they're going through something maybe horrific, maybe impossible. And, this is the only way they can sort of deal with this horrific thing that they're experiencing in this other part of their life.
Yeah, I try to think about not judging people. Think about someone on their worst day, and don't judge people for their worst day. I mean, there are certainly others that have to do that, but that's not for me to do. And if you think about your worst day, consider that person
Think about it a lot.
Well, if you think about your worst day and you consider that person may be having their worst day,
yeah,
it makes it a little easier to have empathy.
What do you want people to get from watching I Was a Stranger?
I feel like my job as an artist and as a filmmaker is to put you in a position to feel. I don't want to make films that are sterile. And if you watch the film and you're moved by it, whatever you felt, that's perfect. And if you leave the film emotionally moved, then I did what I intended to do.
I know a lot of people, when a humanitarian crisis hits, they kind of they start texting their friends about it. They start posting online about how terrible it is. But you're somebody that I've seen over and over again, like run to those places and actually help people. How did you start to get involved in some of these refugee and crises around the world, and what's kind of drawn you into that?
Because I think because we have such an international background, I feel very comfortable in other parts of the world and with other people. I can't think of a place I've been in the world where I haven't been comfortable. And so kind of the first time I went somewhere that was disaster related, I mean, I guess as a kid, we would go to, help during hurricanes in Florida. But as an adult I went to Haiti 3 days after the earthquake, and I helped there for 10 days because of my French, and I helped with a team of doctors in Haiti. And then I went to the DR Congo, and I helped there during the war. Syria, Turkey. I was in Syria during the war. Gaza. I was the first American to fly humanitarian aid over Gaza. Jordan. I mean, I feel comfortable in these areas because I think people need help. I feel comfortable helping. I don't need to I don't broadcast it. I don't publish it. I guess in Haiti, I was on Twitter at the time and haven't been since. It does a lot for me to help.
What does it do?
I think it gives me meaning. Gives my life meaning.
Yeah, when you help somebody else, it ends up helping you way more, right? Like the more you give, it really is true, the more you receive. And maybe no more than in a time when someone is almost left with nothing or has nothing, and then you're kind of there for them. And even like perfect strangers, like you're there in the greatest moment of their need and you kind of just show up.
Yeah, I think that's right.
What do you remember about being in Haiti?
What part of it?
Well, I just remember watching it on TV and being that it was like utter chaos. It seemed like that even
Yeah,
um like the whole country was basically collapsing into rubble. You had the president's house, which became unlivable because it was hurricane, the earthquake was so severe.
yeah, it was brutal. Haiti was brutal. I mean, it was. I mean, you could like taste death everywhere. Um, People just they needed help desperately. I mean, everywhere you went, there were people who were crushed, and I mean, they were starving. It was just, yeah, it was like the worst imaginable scenario. But
That's the worst place you've seen in all the places you've been.
that's the worst place I've ever seen. I can't imagine. I can't. It's hard to imagine something much worse. I mean, I wasn't on the ground in Gaza, which I know was horrific as well, um, but Haiti was concentrated in like one day in one event. The entire country was like obliterated. So, I mean, it was like instantaneous. There was this one instance in Haiti where it was like 5 days after, and I would help get the doctors arranged. It was like 10 doctors. I'd help get them set up where they were going every day. They would go and operate in like churches and things. I'd get them set up in the morning. And then like I was like kind of like a Swiss Army tool. So I would then go like get food and I would find places to get it distributed. So there was a guy from Utah who I knew through friends who like had just taken a helicopter down there, and he was like, he just had a helicopter, but he had no food. So I found him. I had all this food and I was like, hey, I hear you can help me like distribute some food like outside of the city. And he was like, yeah, for sure. I'm like, okay, well, fly your helicopter over to the landing strip and we'll load it with food and I'll go with you and distribute it. He's like, perfect. Flies it over the landing strip. We overload this helicopter with food to an unsafe level. And I'd heard he was a pretty good pilot, so I wasn't too worried. But it was overloaded. So I had found out from the Red Cross where we needed to take food, a place where no one had been able to have food yet. So we take it out up into the mountains, into this like dry creek bed. We saw a couple of people. It's exactly where the Red Cross had told us it needed to go. We were planning to unload like a quarter of it there, and then a quarter of it at another place, and a quarter of it at another place, and the final amount somewhere else. There were like maybe 10 people near this dry creek bed, and they were like kind of camping out. We land in this dry creek bed. Before we could even open the doors, there were probably 500 people converged on the helicopter. And I was like, Jeremy, this is a problem. We're in trouble. But there was already a guy with his hand on the door, and we could not take off. So we opened the door up. the guy has a machete, and I start unloading the food. I get to a quarter of the food. I tell Jeremy, I'm like, do not open your door and get ready to take off when I say take off. I start unloading as much food as we can. I'm handing it to different people. They're taking it, and it is just a mob scene. More people are coming in. Before I can even unload like a quarter of the food, it's now probably doubled in size, the crowd. Like, don't even know where all these people have come from. It's a crazy amount of people. And dangerous because they're hungry. So I'm like thinking, I have no problem we have no problem just unloading all the food here, but I'm thinking like, like if we don't get, like, not the food situation, but it could be once we unload all the food, we're in danger because they don't know if we'll come back. We could be held for ransom to get more food. There's a lot of danger. There's a lot of situations here that could go wrong. So we start getting to the end of the food, and I'm like, okay, I've got to think about keeping enough of this food so that they think we're taking it somewhere else and that we'll come back. So there's about 10 of these like crates of food left. And I turn to the guy with the machete and I go,
French.
Yeah, in French. And, they speak this like kind of like dialect of French. And I go, okay, last one. I hand the thing of food to this guy who I'd been handing it to, and they do a line back to other people. And the guy with the machete, just cool as a cucumber, just so cool, goes, one more. And I look at him right in his eyes, and he is just like, he's clearly not messing around. I go, okay, grab one more, hand it to the other guy. I go, okay, no more, gotta go. And he does not move from the door. He's standing right in the door with his hand right on his machete. He goes, one more. I go, okay, last one. Grab the box, hand it to the guy. Guy passes it back. I go, okay, gotta go. Try to close the door. He goes, oh, one more. I'm like, ugh. Okay. I go, Jeremy, get ready. We're leaving right now. I grab the box. I shove it to the guy with the machete, and I drop it right to his arm. He like goes like this, and I just push him like this. I take the helicopter door. I slam it shut. I go, take off. And before it even closes, that guy ducks down. Jeremy takes off, and we just shoot out of there as fast as we can. And like, it is just a sea of people. And, that was Haiti. And no one to blame. Like, you can't blame them. They're starving.
They're in a desperate situation.
Yeah. I mean, I would have been the same way. You just want to feed your kids, and you do anything to feed your kids. But, we realized like, that's not something you can do. Like, it was very dangerous what we did.
Yeah, I remember too, you were like giving people everything. It was like anyone you could find, you were handing them money. I mean, I think you took a bag full of money down there to try to, and it was like when the food ran out, it was like the money was like everything you had. And it was, in some ways it's kind of a helpless feeling probably, because like you're literally putting your life on the line. You're doing everything you can. You all are paying for all of this. And it's like, it's nowhere near enough of what's needed.
I lived on power bars for 10 days. Like, for 10 days, I ate nothing but power bars. We came out of there. We flew on a C-130 transport to Miami, US C-130 transport. We got there and I was like, wow, we're going to eat. Went down, like, it was so weird, but went down in Miami. I had like this big bowl of paella. And I ate it and immediately vomited it all up. Like, to this day, I could not eat a power bar if you handed it to me, and I had not eaten. Like, it was just crazy. Like, it was just it was a very extreme experience. And, my heart broke for those people that were there. I wanted to do anything I could do. I mean, came back and raised a bunch of money for an orphanage to rebuild an orphanage that was on the outskirts of Port-au-Prince. I mean, while I was there, we were in a meeting inside of a building, and one of the aftershocks, like a 7.2 aftershock hit. There were kids upstairs in the house. Everybody ran out of the building, and a couple of us ran upstairs to grab the kids. It was a traumatic experience, the whole thing. But I mean, I felt like there wasn't enough that could be done. But it was all that I felt like I could do.
Isn't one of the main characters in the movie from somebody you met in Syria during the war?
Yeah. So everybody in the movie is based on a character that I met. I'd written the script early on, and then I made the short. When I went into Syria, I snuck into Syria during the war by befriending a Turkish border guard. After I did the short, I actually found out that I was on one of those Syrian hit lists from Assad because of my short. And that's why Turkey would not let me cross into Syria. So I finally was able to cross. I was able to go into a hospital near Aleppo, and I was interviewing in a neonatal unit, a Syrian nurse, and she told me this story of these two soldiers, a rebel soldier and a regime soldier, who ended up in the same emergency unit and were being operated on at the same time. And that story totally influenced how I opened the film. So every one of those stories in the film is from a real story that I heard. And then it's mixed with emotions or stories of myself. I mean, many of those stories are from stories with my own kids, because this movie explores relationships with parents and their children. It really is it's a real life exploration of the relationships of parents and kids, and how do those relationships evolve in extreme and dangerous circumstances.
You're definitely a fighter. I mean that in a really positive way. You're somebody that through business, through negotiation, through, supporting people that know you and that you love. Like, I've always seen you as somebody that the fights, I probably have a lot of that. It probably comes from you. One story I remember a couple of stories of fights. One is when I was like 12, and we lived in Switzerland, and we all went to the same school, from like the little kids all the way. You were like a senior, and I was probably in like 7th grade, and some kid had kicked me in the bathing suit area as hard as he could. I must have said something, but he kicked me full on hard, and he like barely missed where I thankfully could still have kids. But I remember coming to the other side of the school and finding you, and you were a senior, and you and some of these other, Collège de Léman, real tough guys, came over, and I just remember you putting that kid in the ground and being like, if you touch my brother again, you're going to really suffer. And he was much bigger than me. He was older than me, and you were much bigger than him. But, like, fighter. I remember another time, I remember another time you were dating somebody in college, and somebody had said something to this girl who, had kind of like said something inappropriate to her, or been rude to her or something. And so it was like, we're going to go talk to this guy. You remember this?
No.
And so
some of these memories I block out.
this one was one to block because we roll up to this guy's house. And I was like 16. You were probably like 20, early 20s. And it was like, I'm like, well, I'm gonna punch a grown man here. This is happening today. And we got up to this door, police bang on the door at this apartment, and the door opens, and it is this like lineman for this D1 school where we were.
I do remember this.
And this fridge guy opens the door, and immediately I'm like, I don't think what this guy did was that bad. And you're like, where's Jason? Whatever his name was. And he was super calm. He was actually really polite. He was like, that's me. I was like, dang it. Like, could it just be his roommate? Like his little nerdy roommate, maybe that this jock D1 football player lives with? Could he just be Jason? No, it's like, that's me. It was like, and immediately I'm like, I think we need to not fight at the moment. And I think we yelled at him a little bit. I think I may have tried to get you out of there. And he was the utmost gentleman, yelled at us back a little bit, but you gotta.
Yeah, I yelled at him a lot. I remember he was calm. Yeah, he was very calm. He was big.
He was big.
Yeah. I mean, this is the I'm working on this part. This is a continued part of me that this part of me has gotten a lot better, by the way. I'm not quite like this anymore. Not even like I recognize this in me. It's something I continually look at. I mean, I still stick up for the people I love. And like people, I still will like, I remember it wasn't too long ago. I was like, I broke up a fight that was a random fight. I'm not, what's the way? I don't mind intervening, but I do it differently now. I try to do it with more sugar. I try not to, I try not to do it as such a Tasmanian devil anymore. But that's kind of that's that saint and sinner that I talk about, that I'm referring to. I don't want to be someone that intimidates ever. And I don't want to be even maybe when it's warranted, and this guy, I don't think he probably warranted it, but there are situations where maybe someone has it coming, but there are other ways to handle it. And I don't want to pretend that I shy away from those circumstances. I will still confront, but I confront them I believe in a kinder way now. I had one over Christmas this last year where someone stole a package that was a present that was very unique that I had bought for someone, and I just so happened I was able to, through a certain way, get their address, the person who had stolen the package. And I tried to get FedEx to deal with it, but they wouldn't. And it wasn't something that was replaceable. So I paid a visit to the person, and I was able to talk to the young kid who had stolen it, and he was clearly dealing in other, illegal things. He was dealing drugs, and I was able to sit and talk to him, and we had a very normal conversation, he and I. And I said to him, I was like, I can tell you're a smart kid. This is something stupid that you've done. And you're on a very stupid path. And like, the way that you're going, you're going to end up in jail or dead. And I'm like, you're going to cross the wrong person. You're not hard to find. And like, you can turn this around and you could actually go and you could start a business, or you can do this a different way and you can become somebody who's great. And, he wanted to swap numbers and like have a relationship. And I didn't afford
The
him
porch
that.
pirate?
Huh?
The porch pirate.
Yeah. Yeah. We didn't do that, but
Turned it into networking. It's pretty savvy.
I was impressed with him. I didn't give him that, but I did get my package back, my art piece, and I hope maybe made a little difference in him. And we ended up spending about 25 minutes together. So that versus like trying to right the wrong in a different way I was also kind of proud of myself that like I did it differently and I felt better about it. And I think in the end he felt better about it than had we done it, in some other way.
Whenever there's a really difficult, traumatic situation, sort of find that there's two types of people. There's the people that immediately walk away. I mean, it's like they hear something traumatic, they see something, and it's like their immediate physical reaction is to just, whether they're thinking about it subconsciously or not, they just literally walk away from the situation. And then there's like almost everyone's doing that. And then there's always like a couple of people that are like, they hear it, they see it, they feel it, and they like walk straight into whatever is happening, no matter how crazy or dangerous or difficult. And I see you as sort of the upper tier of even those few people that are willing to do that. You kind of put yourself in harm's way, or you kind of forget about yourself very quickly in the most difficult of situations in order to help other people. And I don't know that it's just something you learned or were taught or were born with, or I don't know, maybe but it's something that's super rare and super needed in the world. I mean, we need more people who are willing to go in and do the hard things and solve hard problems and put themselves out there and, okay, maybe not get in a sketchy helicopter and fly into a jungle, but do other things, do the simple things that just to help make the world a little bit of a better place. But that's something that you, I think more so than almost anybody else I know, have done it over and over again. It's just like this, I don't know. Is that something you feel like you've learned, or is that something you were born with?
I mean, as I see it, it's something that either is there or it's not there. I mean, that day in Haiti, when the house started to shake, I saw everyone run out and two of us walked upstairs. And I didn't feel like there was anything wrong with the people who ran out, but even the parents of the kids ran out. And it wasn't, again, I don't feel there's a wrong or right. It just is, there's an instinct to either go up or go out. And my instinct was just to go up. You got to grab the kids. I just think it's just that you get one instinct or another. So my instinct happens to be to go up the stairs. And I wasn't there. There's no, I don't feel fear in those moments. And if I felt fear, I would run out. So I don't think it's again, I don't think one's wrong or right. It's just, I don't feel any fear in that moment. So that's what I do. I don't feel fear being in a war zone. I don't have a sense that like, I don't want to die. Especially like I, I, I didn't like, I don't want to be in those situations. Like the only thing I haven't wanted to do was like leave my kids. I don't really feel that much. I've never felt that much fear for my own life, but I haven't wanted to like cause any damage to my kids. But I have never worried for my own life.
We're sitting in Malibu in your house, and whenever I come here, I think of the fires that came through here.
Yeah.
And every time you come to Southern California, you come to Malibu, I mean, it's sort of, at this point, it's like this kind of like, oh wow, I remember when that hill looked like that, or that home wasn't there, or what. But like you almost lost your home. You like what? I mean, several times you've had fires come close, but one time you had basically fires on all sides.
Brody and I, my oldest son and I, we stayed when the Woolsey fire came through here in 2018. We stayed to save the house and the art, but not to be, I mean, I never would have put him in danger. I always thought we would be able to run down to the beach. If things got too scary, I would never have put him in danger. The house or the art was not worth that. I did not understand the situation I didn't understand the situation I was putting him in. And I made a mistake there. And I ended up putting that in the film because in the story of the poet, it's about that in that story, that father relationship with his son is about the same age that Brody was with me. And what happened in the Woolsey fire is the fire came up and crested the hill behind us and was coming towards us like a freight train. I still didn't understand it. I didn't anticipate it. But
Never been around a fire like that. I mean,
no, I had never been around a fire like that. But even in talking to people that had, we always said, well, if it gets too dangerous, we'll go down our stairs, we'll go out, we'll float in the water, we'll wait it out. No big deal. But what happened was it came over that hill, it came down around into the state park, it wrapped around our house. So it came towards us on this side, it came around our house, and it came up. And it simultaneously came down our driveway.
From the PCH.
Yeah.
So it came around the beach and blocked the water, and then
burned
it came
our stairs up from the beach. Yeah.
And kind of cornered you.
Yeah. It was coming towards us on all sides. Now, we had incredible water pressure, and because as kids, I hated dragging hoses around our yard. I don't know why I hated that so much, but I did. And so I had positioned hoses here you never had to move a hose.
You just you had this, we had one hose and you had to drag it around and water stuff?
I guess I just didn't like dragging the hose around and rewinding it up.
And this was like in you for decades, and so.
Some weird Matrix thing, I suppose.
You built this house, and when you designed it and built it, one of the specifications, not knowing anything about fires or anything like that, was just like, you don't like dragging a hose around, so you build water spigots and you have hoses everywhere around this massive property.
It's stupid. I get it. It's stupid. But yes, that was one of my.
Well, I don't think it's stupid. It's just, it's incredible.
I also had very industrial hoses because
could withstand a fire.
I had industrial hoses because they're easier to wind up. And I didn't like winding hoses as a kid. It's like an extra $5 a hose, but yeah, it was a thing.
How many hoses would you say you already had on the property leading into?
It's going to make me look ridiculous, but probably 20.
20 different hoses plugged in already to 20 different places.
Yeah. Yeah. Just good fortune. So we had them all going, and but we were trapped, and there was a moment we had all these hoses going. I had my buddy Rocky here as well, who was helping us, and my neighbor here, Mark, who was also, we could not save the house at the top of the driveway. off of PCH, which was a neighbor's house. We were fighting to save the next house down. We saved that one. A tree fell on it. We cut it off. We fought to save my neighbor Mark's house. We were saving this other house here. We were not able to save another house, a house over. And then we were fighting to save ours by hosing down as the fire was coming up, by hosing down
The hillside.
This tree here that was right out by our house, we lost the whole deck. The patio furniture was liquefied. It was so hot, it liquefied the patio furniture. But there was this moment, and it's in the film, where you sense the danger. I sensed the danger. I was not scared for me, but I was very scared for Brody. And I turned to Brody and I said, buddy, if you're scared, I'll find us a way out of here. And I put that in the film. And so like you feel that emotion in the film. It's just a direct like copy of that father feeling that moment out on the water that I felt with Brody here. And Brody turned to me just like the kid does in the film. And Brody was like, no, Dad, I'm good. And the kid says it to the dad in the film, like, no, we'll be fine. Like Brody's confidence was like, no, we're good. And we kept fighting the fire, and we fought it all night long. And, you came like the next day and helped us. You came later that night, I think, actually, and we slept. So
you were up for like 24 hours trying to keep the fire, from reigniting in different places.
Yeah, we were putting them out in the trees all night.
Yeah,
because every time we would put it out in the tree, it would reignite. We would get it out, but it was so hot, it would reignite again. So we would just take turns. It would be like, okay, put the fire out, go around the property, put it out somewhere else, go back up and put them out in the trees again. And just repeat all night long.
Hearing you talk about your son, it's like, makes me think about how from our kids, in many ways, our kids are so much better. At least I feel this way. Like my kids are so much better people than I am, and as a person. And I'm not taking anything away from myself. I don't think I'm a bad person, but I just like I've learned so much from them, and in that experience, I mean, yeah, your little kids. That you learn these things from them, these little lessons, and it's sweet, and it's helpful to you when they're little. But when they start to get older, they start to do things that you're like, I didn't teach them that, and like that's actually like he's so much better than me. Like and you feel this feeling of like immense pride, and also like just like this feeling of like, wow, I'm learning from this person that I helped create, and he's teaching me things that I didn't teach him. Well, it's one of the most beautiful things about being a dad.
I agree. I feel like you have great kids. So I agree about your kids of what you're saying. And I think my kids are a huge generational improvement to me. I know I'm a good person, but I believe my kids are more honest. They're better people. Just naturally, they're better people. They came that way. I do believe like maybe there are little ways that I steered them and that my ex-wife steered them to be, kind of better, but like in the right lanes. But it's just little degrees. They just are generationally better.
Yeah, I have huge optimism for the next generation. I think they are in so many ways on a better trajectory than we were on. At the same time, hard things make strong people, right? There's that Chinese proverb that I've heard you talk a lot about. This man has a son, and he's, he finds a horse in the field, and he brings the horse back, and everyone says, "Oh, well, that's amazing."
Yeah.
And
I
then
know the proverb.
he
Yeah.
his son's riding on the horse, and then he falls off the horse and breaks his leg.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, "Oh, this is terrible." And he's like, "Let's see what happens." And then, he doesn't, that means he doesn't have to go to war. And, it's like this cascading things of, if you think it's good or you think it's bad, and it's actually like, it actually just is, it is. And it's sort of making this person who he's supposed to be. And I don't know, the hard things that you've been through, the hard things that you've seen, or the hard things that I've been through and I've seen, actually are the things that help us turn into being the people that we are. And the good that we do is in many ways directly because of the hard things that we experienced and survived.
Well, everybody seems so afraid of the hard things. I don't know what's wrong with the hard things. It's not fun, but I embrace the things that are hard now. I mean, I feel like there are moments that I look back on where I went through some very hard things, where I was really trying to get out of them. And I wish that I would have just kind of I wish I would have wallowed in them a little bit. I don't run from the things that are hard anymore. When I get stuck in something hard now, I'm like, let's do it. I try to feel it as much as I can, because it's creating something very good on the other side. I think the thing that I told you one time when you were going through something hard was like, no great sculpture's been made out of clay. They're all made out of stone. Even for my own kids, I make a very conscious effort not to bail them out of the things that are hard, because they need to go through it, and they need to get themselves out of it, and they need to be in the things that are hard in order to shape themselves as people. And the thing that I appreciate about them is they want to go through those things. It's one of the generational improvements. I remember at their age, I was trying to look for people to help me get out of the hard things. And I would be frustrated when I'd look around and I couldn't get anyone to help me. And I had to climb my own way out. But having done that, I'm now good at getting out of it. So I don't think there's anything wrong with it. And the point of life is not to make yourself happy. If you think that's the point of life, you're setting yourself up for a very challenging existence. The point of life is to feel the moment that you're in, and to go about your life and make the most of whatever moment you're in. The people that I love, are the ones that can be in a very tough moment and yet say, I still love life. Those are beautiful people. And it's like, yeah, this is a very tough moment for me. But my gosh, the sun's shining and people love me. Do you see the waves? And did you hear that bird? I heard the most beautiful bird today. Can you smell that? That's that's an incredible talent. And I think you can train that. I'm not there yet, but I'm working on it.
Yeah, just the mindset of seeing those things, hearing, smelling those things versus some of the other things that feel like they're bigger and right in front of your face, but are really way less important. But the whole world kind of pushes these things that are less beneficial to your heart, your soul, and your mind versus some of these things, and just like getting in the mindset. I mean, this is one thing that over and over again in these interviews, the smartest, most successful people in the world, they're talking about you have to believe it. You have to get your mind in the right place. And if you can get your mind in the right place, it's going to actually force it to be in the right place. And for a long time, I just thought all that was just a bunch of like woo-woo and like, you have to say this stuff. You have to, and then when you talk to the most successful people in the world and you meet them and they're like, no, I am waking up every morning and I am saying, I'm affirming these things. Like, I am loved. Like, I'm bigger than the problems that I face. Like, I'm a good person. Like, I'm going to go get it. Like, it's like, why do you have to say that to yourself? It's like, because your brain is incredibly powerful and and it can distort reality. And so I totally agree. Like, it is something you can train. The smartest, best people in the world train their minds to do things that seem unnatural and strange. But those are the things that push them to do unnatural and incredible things.
I could tell you a ton of stories of like self realization of saying, I'm going to do this or we are going to do that. And it happens because you continue to say it. And the same is the case if you're negative on yourself. I believe it wholeheartedly. And like, that's why sometimes that saying of speak things into existence, it is absolutely the case. And it's not to say, I would say it's not to say like, lie to yourself, or like, it's not to say like, if you feel a certain way, don't be honest with yourself. Like, I believe in complete and total honesty with yourself, but be the most positive version of yourself that you can be. And like, speak those things into existence. If you have a goal, like, speak it into existence. You can make those things happen. There's an incredible power to the energy that you create from positivity. It's absolutely true.
There's these different levels of wealth that people talk about, and the sort of one of the highest levels of wealth are these things that you just absolutely can't buy. And it may be posterity, it may be time, it may be getting to spend time with your parents later in your life. Like, there are these things. And one of the things I feel incredible privilege about and incredibly lucky is that I have had a brother who's always knew that if I got into a problem, I always knew if I needed some advice. I always knew if I ended up in the cartel's hands somewhere in the world, I always knew that I could call you and that you would always be there to help. And I think when you think about, people talk about, oh, this person's so lucky or this or that, like, this is one of the things that I think has been an incredible privilege for me. And a lot of people don't get that and don't have that. And I've like always been so grateful for it. I probably haven't always shown it, but in the back of my mind, knowing that there are people that are going to be there for you no matter what. And I've always known that about you. And I wanted to tell you how grateful I am for that.
Thanks, man. That means a lot to me. I hope you feel that way. That I feel that way. I would do those things. I would get you out of any of those situations. I would always be there for you. And you've come for me many times, and I really appreciate that. And thanks for saying that. Yeah. Thank you for saying that. I would, and I will if it ever happens.
Outside of family, who's the human being you most admire?
I think that's Jesus Christ.
Tell me more.
Well, well, I don't, I mean, I don't believe him like you do. Yeah, but he's had a massive influence on the world. So I definitely admire the influence that he's had on the world. He's been, I would say, the most influential person I can think of on the world.
If you could implant one idea into everyone in the world, what would it be?
That's tricky because that's not something that I would do to people, but that goes against kind of everything I believe. But let's if I'm gonna put that aside, I would go past like tolerance, and I would then go past like togetherness, and then I would get to love, and I would hope that I would implant like this feeling of like I think it would just be a feeling that like there is no difference between us.
What's the hardest thing you've ever accomplished?
That I think I think living, probably just living 48 years. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, it totally makes sense. Best advice for overcoming difficult things?
I think you shouldn't be in a hurry to overcome difficult things. I mean, like see see the difficult things as like a privilege, because if you live through them, if you have something difficult and you live through it, you're so much stronger. I mean, if I look back, if I look back on my life, and I'm not that old, but I mean, I've lived a lot of life. I feel like I've lived a very rich life, you know, from a standpoint of the places I've been, the things I've done, people I know, and meaning that's not like, I don't think that's bragging. It's just the way I feel. I feel like I've lived a rich life. Like I feel enriched from the life I lived. Like I've been rich. I've been poor. I've been rich again. I've been poor again. I've been rich again. Like I've been married. I've been divorced. I've been sued. I've been falsely accused. I've been lied to. I could go through this long list probably if I sat here and thought about it. It's a life. It's just a life. And everybody lives a life. So everybody could have these stories. And that's the way a life should be. There's this great quote that anytime someone gets a scar and they're like, ugh, this scar is disgusting on my body. And they pull out this great quote by Hunter S. Thompson that talks about that, where he says, I won't quote it right. But it says that you should go to the grave with scars on your body. I think I've lived that kind of life, and I will continue to live that kind of life. Like, if I feel it, I'll say it. If I feel it, I'll do it. And that has served me well most of the time. And sometimes it leads to regret later. But I've learned to live with both of those things, the good that it serves me with and the regret that it serves me with. And you have to learn to live with the regrets, just like you have to learn to live with the victories. And I love that part about life. You've got to take the defeats and the challenges, and you've got to just embrace them. And hopefully you have them every day. And maybe it's every 10 years you have one that really puts you on your back. And maybe you deserved it. Maybe you didn't. Sometimes you don't. The trick is like getting back up. And everybody loves everybody loves the story of redemption. I always root for people to get back up. So maybe my advice after that long-winded thing is just get back up.
What accomplishment are you most proud of?
I think I'm most proud that my kids are so honest. They're like the most honest people I know. And I just love that. I don't know that it's my accomplishment, or like even
Their mom.
Katie, my ex-wife's accomplishment, but I'm so like proud of that. I think maybe they just came that way, but they're all very honest. And it's been the greatest like possible lesson for me in my life. And I love it. I love it about them. All three of them.
How do you measure your life?
One day at a time. I think I really try to measure my life in the moment. I try to stay very present, and I try to just do good as much as possible.
If you die and you meet God, what do you hope he says to you?
That's a tricky question for me, because Well, let me try to play that out real quick. Well, first of all, I think I would have to say I'm sorry because I didn't believe in you very well on Earth. So I'm gonna apologize. But I think if God is who everyone says God is, I think he would accept that apology. And then I think I would give him a big hug if he would take that. I think, I mean, if that's the God that God is, I think that would be acceptable.
That's beautiful.
And if I'm wrong about it, then I think I live a pretty like giving life. So I think God would take me.
Yeah, I think so too.
I'm trying to reconcile all that anyway. I leave it open.
Finally, what's the biggest impact you want to make on the world?
If I can create more empathy in the world because of my actions, and that has some ripple effect that continues after I'm gone, then I think I would have lived a life that was meaningful.
Proud of you, man. Love you.
Loved it. Thanks, bro.
Divot.
On next week's episode.
It's like, go fix something, go make it better. I don't always do it. Sometimes I make something worse and I can learn from it. But like, I actually think, people add a lot of language around this. To me, work is fundamentally about going and fixing or making something better for your teammate, for your customer, inside your company, for your business.